Hello, Creative Gems. Welcome back to Creativity. And if you're new here, I'm Sandy. Today I have a bunch of bowls, and these are all plastic bowls from the Dollar Tree. They're all different sizes and designs. I probably won't craft with all of these today, but what I want to do is select a few of these bowls and give each of them a makeover so that when I'm done, you'll think the bowls were bought from a high end, fancy home decor store. To start, I'm going to select this gray one here. This one is an interesting bowl because it has a sleek matte gray finish that kind of feels like silicone and it's got a bit of give to it. See how it's a little flexible here? Anyhow, the first thing I'm going to do is dress up the rim of the bowl. So I have this silver chrome card trim, but this one is a little different from the one I normally use because this one is U-shaped, whereas the ones you may have seen me use on my other crafts are pretty much flat like tape. See, this is the trim I usually use. I just peel back the backing and then apply it flat against whatever I'm embellishing. But the reason I want to use the U-shaped trim today is because I've got a bowl here with a very wide opening. So I want to be able to see the trim on both the outer rim and on the inside rim of the bowl. So I'll go ahead and open up the fold a bit first. And then, by the way, inside the fold, it is self-adhesive, so once I apply it to the rim of the bowl, it should stay put without any extra glue. And while I apply this trim, I would like to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to today's craft project. If you enjoy Glam Home Decor and DIY crafts on a budget, please let me know by hitting the subscribe button. And if you like what you see today, please give me a thumbs up as well so YouTube will continue to recommend my channel to other viewers like you. Okay, so we've reached back to the beginning, so I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors to cut the trim, and hopefully I cut it so there's not much of a gap. Okay, so there's not much of a gap here, but I don't like the seam, so we're going to go ahead and fix that by hiding it with some trim. And those of you who have watched some of my other craft tutorials already know that I have an assortment of trim embellishments that I like to keep on hand. But if you're new here, get ready to be dazzled because I love bling and I love anything that glitters and sparkles. And this trim here is one of my many favorite trims I like to use in my DIY home decor crafts. This is a silver rhinestone trim, and when the light hits it, it sparkles brilliantly. But for this bowl, we're not really going to use it for the sparkle effect so much as for a way to camouflage the gap created by the card trim. We'll only need a very small piece, and as you can see, the trim is very flexible and can be cut to size. It's also self-adhesive, so all I need to do is stick it directly onto the bowl without having to add any glue. And once I have this trim applied, what I'm going to do is apply a similar piece on the opposite end just to even things out. No one will even know that we used it to hide an ugly gap because it's such a beautiful embellishment that adds a nice design detail to the opening of the bowl. Okay, so now that we have that done, I'm going to go back in and add a second trim right below the car trim. This one has real glass pieces as well as little rhinestones on the trim. It's also self-adhesive, so again, we won't have to mess with any glue. And by the way, if you like the trims and embellishments that I'm using today, you'll find links to them and all my favorite embellishments down in the description box. Every time I upload a new craft video, you'll always leave me comments asking me about my craft supplies and tools. So I'm happy to say you can get all of the same stuff that I use for your own craft projects. Just make sure you check the video's description box down below. Anyhow, you can see how easy it is to work with this trim. It's actually quite flexible, so it's easy to apply it and it can bend according to the shape of the bowl. And once again, we've reached back to the beginning, so I'm going to cut this trim and hopefully there won't be any gap. Okay, so that was pretty easy, and here's what the bowl looks like so far. It definitely looks pretty, but we're not done yet because we're just getting to the best part of this bowl makeover. So, if you haven't seen any of my other previous bowl makeovers yet, I actually have a thing about pedestal bowls where I like to give them a bit of height. So, here I've got a stoneware pillar candle pedestal from the Dollar Tree. This one is black and the top is circular and flat with a bit of a ridge, and the bottom is square. The neck of the candle pedestal has some nice texture detailing on it, but what I'm going to do today is cover this whole thing up with some bling. First, I'm going to get a couple of rows of First, I'm going to get a couple of rows of the same silver rhinestone trim we used earlier and apply it all around the top of the candle holder. So while I work on this, comment down below with the word bowl and let me know if you have ever made over any bowls. I actually like to showcase some of my bowls as showpieces or centerpieces for a shelf or table. Sometimes I even leave them empty instead of filling them up with stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, I like to give some of my bowls some height, so I often add legs to the bowl, which I think makes them look more regal. So here I have another silver rhinestone trim with a slightly different design. This one has some smaller square glass pieces and I'll place the trim towards the collar of the pillar. I just love crafting with these trims. They're so pretty and they're just so easy to work with because they're flexible, they can be cut to size, and they're self-adhesive. And because sometimes I just don't want to mess with glue. So these trim make it very, very convenient. Next, I'm going to take some clear round acrylic crystal gems and apply them all over the pillar candle. I found these at a sell off many, many years ago, but you can also find similar ones online. These actually come in individual strips, so you can apply them row by row all around the pillar candle like so. And I'll keep applying the strips of gemstones until I have the entire area covered. And while I do that, I would be very curious to know where you're tuning in from. Lately, I've gained a bunch of new viewers and subscribers to my channel, so I would love to know where you're from. I always get excited when I get people that are close to home, but also people who live far, far away. In fact, knowing where y'all are from reminds me that the world is huge and there are so many different places that I have yet to visit. In fact, every time one of you drops me a comment to tell me where you're from, I often find myself adding another place on my bucket list of places to visit. And with that said, it looks like we've got this whole section pretty much done. It looks pretty good, but unfortunately, I don't have enough of the gems to finish embellishing the rest of the pillar candle. I guess I should have double checked my supplies first, but not to worry. For the rest of the pillar candle, I have sheets of these silver pearl beads that can be used instead. I found these at the dollar store and they are self-adhesive. So we'll go ahead and peel a row of these and start applying them to the rest of the pillar candle pedestal. With the middle part done, I think this looks quite nice. And fast forward, I finished the rest of the pillar candle pedestal, and this is what it looks like now. I think this is going to look fantastic as a pillar for our bowl. The silver will actually give a very nice contrast to the matte gray color of the bowl, and it will tie in with the silver rim that we added to the bowl. So let's go ahead and turn the bowl over, and here you can see I already drew out the square shape of the pillar candle pedestal base because that's where we're going to adhere the pillar candle pedestal to, right in the center. But before we do that, I want to rough up the bottom of the bowl to make it easier for the glue to stick to. All I'm doing here is using a piece of sandpaper and giving a light sanding inside the square that I just drew. By sanding it down, it will rough up the smooth surface of the bowl. What we want is to sand it down so you can see the scratch marks created from the sandpaper. Then I'll just use a cloth to wipe away any debris and dust. Okay, so now we're ready to glue this pillar candle pedestal to the bowl. And for that, I'm just going to use some hot glue. And once I have enough hot glue applied, I'll stick it right onto the bottom of the bowl, right in the center where I drew out the square. And take a look at that. The glue took hold immediately, and this actually feels really solid. Now, to finish off this bowl, I want to clean up the edges here. So I'm going to take a string of this pearl beads and hot glue it all around the base of the candle pillar pedestal to hide the seams. These are silver pearl beads that you'll often find me using as trim because they hide seams and gaps very well, and they're very easy to glue down with just some hot glue. When I'm done, I'll just remove any glue strings that might be stuck to the bowl. And here's the final look for our first bowl makeover. This pedestal bowl is quite unique. I think the color contrast between the gray finish of the bowl and the dark base of the pillar candle pedestal is very pretty, and the silver embellishments on both pieces tied all together to make this bowl a beautiful, one of a kind table decor piece. And now let's continue with our second bowl makeover. Here I have a large clear plastic bowl. This bowl has some ridges all along the outside and a very wide opening with a bit of a lip on the rim. The inside is smooth, and I think this bowl is normally used as a punch bowl, but today we're going to transform the look of this bowl and give it a completely new look. I've got this beautiful metallic silver and gold foil mesh placemat. These are actually disposable placemats people use for hosting dinner parties, but I love to use them for craft projects. See how one side is silver and the other side is actually gold. So, what I want to do is cover the entire bowl with this placemat. Now, I can either cover the inside of the bowl like this, or I can cover the outside like this. And for my bowl, I've decided that I want to cover the outside of the bowl because I want to hide the ridge lines on the bowl. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this placemat into smaller pieces. This placemat is extremely thin and very flexible, so it should be very easy to adhere to the bowl. And to do that, I'm going to use Mod Podge. The Mod Podge I have here is the glossy version, but honestly, I don't think it will matter if you use the matte version. The Mod Podge will dry clear either way, which is what we want. To apply the Mod Podge, I'm just going to use a regular soft bristled paintbrush. See how the Mod Podge just goes on white, but once it dries, it will be completely clear. So now all I'm doing is applying a small piece of the placemat onto the bowl where we applied the Mod Podge. And then I'll keep doing that until the entire bowl is covered with pieces of the placemat. And while I work on that, I would like to share a fun fact. Did you guys know that there are different types of Mod Podge? In fact, comment down below with the word bowl and guess how many different types of Mod Podge there are. And just to give you a little hint, you already know we have the glossy type because that's what I'm using today, but there's also the matte type, which I've used before in some of my other craft projects. If you know of any other types, let us know down in the comments. In the meantime, it's going to take a little while for me to cover the entire bowl with these placemat pieces, and then it will take a couple of hours for the whole thing to completely dry. So when I finish this, I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So I ended up leaving this overnight because I got busy with other stuff, but this is what the bowl looks like the next day. You can barely see the ridges on the bowl now, and all the Mod Podge has indeed dried clear, so we can still see through the mesh. And although the outside of the bowl is a silvery gold color, on the inside of the bowl, it's a vibrant gold color. This actually is quite unique because most of the ones I've seen is the same color on both sides. They also have these in different colors as well, and you can get a whole bunch in a pack just for a few dollars. So, what I want to do next is paint the lip to give this bowl a gold rim. To do that, I'll just take my metallic gold chrome paint marker and apply it all along the lip. It glides on very smoothly, and when I'm done, I'll leave it alone for about an hour or two to fully dry. And once it's fully dry, it will be permanent. And by the way, you'll find the paint marker that I'm using as well as similar placemats in silver and gold online. As mentioned earlier, just check the description box down below for the links. Wow, that gold rim really makes a huge difference, don't you think? So I'm going to leave this bowl alone for an hour or so, and then I'll come back so we can finish making over this bowl. Okay, so the gold rim has completely dried now, so we can turn this bowl over. What I want to do next is add some silver beads all around the base. To do that, I'll just use a tiny bit of hot glue. I think the silver beads will match the silver exterior of the bowl, but also add some nice color contrast to the gold interior of the bowl. I think this bowl is looking quite pretty, but I'm actually not done making over this bowl just yet. Let's go ahead and turn this bowl upside down again. What I want to do next is add some legs to the bowl to give it a bit of height. The step is optional though, so if you prefer your bowl to sit flat directly on the table surface, you can skip this step. But for my bowl, I do want to give it a tiny bit of height, so I'm going to add four of these gold ornament balls I have left over from Christmas. What I'm going to do first is remove the caps off each of the balls. A gentle tug is all you need to do to pull the caps off. Next, we're going to use a pair of scissors to cut off the ends. This will leave a small opening on each ball, and that's where we're going to apply a bit of hot glue before affixing each ornament ball to the bottom of the bowl. And when I adhere each ball to the bowl, I'll position them in the shape of a square equidistant from each other. Now let's turn this bowl over and see what it looks like. Since the bowl is clear, you can see the legs and you can see the hole on each leg. So we're going to have to cover that up. Unfortunately, I didn't think about that part when I was adding the legs. But not to worry, I have a solution to cover that up. I have this round mirror that I think will fit into the bottom of this bowl. And check this out. This mirror is not even made of glass. It's made from an acrylic material, so it's a little flexible and can also be cut to size. And here I've just peeled away the wax backing because this mirror is also self-adhesive. So I'll just place this mirror right at the bottom of the bowl inside. And just so you know, there's also a plastic film on top of the mirror, which is why you can't see any reflection yet. But I'll go ahead and peel away the film now and take a look at that. This mirror looks like a real glass mirror, but it's not even glass. You can see how clear the reflection is. And of course, it's doing its job by hiding the holes on the ornament balls that we stuck to the bottom of the bowl. Now, as a last piece of embellishment for this bowl makeover, I'm going to hot glue a string of the silver pearl beads all around the mirror to give it a little bit of a frame so we can hide the hard edges of the mirror. The silver from the beads will also give some good color contrast against the gold foil of the placemat. And with that done, here's the final look for our second bowl makeover. This bowl has literally transformed from a plain punch bowl into an elegant silver and gold pedestal bowl. The gold legs match the golden interior of the bowl, and the silver exterior helps to mute the otherwise bright gold. And the mirror we placed inside really makes this bowl unique and so elegant looking. And now let's move on to our third bowl makeover. This clear plastic bowl is a bit smaller than the previous two that we have made over. It also has a very unique design because of its fluted shape. And by the way, this bowl comes in a two-pack from the Dollar Tree, and I have made so many things with this bowl, including turning it into a lampshade for a DIY table lamp I made. But anyhow, for this bowl, I'm going to start off by adding the U-shaped silver chrome card trim all around the rim, just like we did for our first bowl. And while I do that, comment down below with the word bowl and let me know what you think of the bowl makeovers so far. I would be curious to know if any of you will try to do some bowl makeovers yourself. If so, you can go as glam and elegant as you want, or you can go simple and chic. The possibilities are endless because there are so many different ways you can dress up a bowl and make it your own. Paint your bowl if you prefer, or add gem pieces to it if you want. You could even paper mache it instead to give it a more rustic look. But of course, on my channel, you know to expect bling and glam for my bowl designs. Okay, so just like we did for the first bowl makeover, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of small pieces of silver rhinestone trim, which helps to hide the gap formed by the two ends of the chrome card trim. But it also will add a bit of design detail as well. And now I've turned the bowl upside down because I'll be adding another piece of chrome card trim to the base of this bowl. But this time we'll go with the regular chrome card trim, the flat one that I normally use. And you'll notice here I decided to add a tiny bit of hot glue to the end of the trim just to give it a bit of extra reinforcement. So this time the gap is not that prominent at all, so I'm going to leave the trim as it is. But there's quite a lot of glue strings, which I'm going to remove using my handy dandy little hack, which is just using a dry soft bristle brush to remove the nasty glue strings. Next, I want to give the bowl a bit of extra height, so I've got a silver square bowl that I'm going to add to the base of the bowl. This bowl has a very unique shape because the rim is kind of wavy and the bottom of the bowl is square shaped. To give this bowl a more upscale look, I'm going to trim off the rim with a strip of the silver chrome card trim as well. And you'll notice that when I get to each of the four corners of this bowl, that I'm applying a tiny bit of hot glue. That's to help the trim give it a bit of extra reinforcement so that it stays put when it goes around each corner. And by the way, this silver square bowl has a mirror-like finish that I absolutely love, and the bowl actually comes in a pack of four from the Dollar Tree. And then when I'm done, I'll add a bead of hot glue to the bottom of the silver bowl before placing the clear plastic bowl on top. Now, we can leave this bowl as is and call it complete, and it would look very beautiful. But since I'm kind of into silver and gold combinations this year, I'm going to add one extra embellishment to the base of this bowl to give it some extra visual interest. To do that, I've gone ahead and injected some hot glue into the silicone mold. This is a mold of Baroque vines. The hot glue only took a minute or so to cool, and now that it's hardened, I have taken it out of the silicone mold. So I'm going to go ahead and make a total of four of these pieces, and then I'll come back to show you how I'm going to use them as an embellishment for our third bowl makeover. Okay, so here are the four pieces. It took a couple of minutes for each piece to cool and harden, and now they're ready to be painted. And of course, I'm going to use my favorite paint marker. This is a gold metallic paint marker, which we actually used earlier to give our second bowl a gold rim. What I'm going to do is paint each of these pieces gold. And as I paint them, you can begin to see how shiny and glossy the finish looks. And I know some of you have seen me use these paint markers before and are probably wondering why I don't just use spray paint. Well, I guess I could, but I generally am not a big fan of aerosol anything. And plus, I haven't found any spray paint that gives as glossy of a finish as these paint markers. And these paint markers also come in a silver chrome finish as well as a bronze finish. So I'll go ahead and finish up the rest of these pieces with the paint marker. I'll let them dry for a couple of hours and then I'll come back to show you what they look like. All right, the pieces are all painted and dry, and look how pretty they are. They look very close to metallic, which is exactly the look I was going for. So we'll go ahead and start affixing these pieces to our bowl. What I'm going to do is stick one piece on each side of the bowl, somewhere in the center. And to adhere them to the bowl, I'm actually going to use just a bit of hot glue. And we really only need a tiny bit because hot glue adheres to plastic extremely well. So that didn't take long at all, and now this bowl has completely transformed. I think the gold pieces really give this bowl a more upscaled look, and the silver chrome trim makes this bowl look quite a bit more high end from what we started with. Here I have the bowl showcased on a shelf alongside some of my other DIY home decor crafts. I left it empty for the time being, but if you have any suggestions of what I could use this bowl for, feel free to leave me your suggestions down in the comments. And here are all three bowls placed together. Each bowl has a unique design, but they all look quite elegant. I really love the silver theme, but combining a bit of gold provides a beautiful pop of color as well, don't you think? Comment down below and let me know which of the three bowl makeovers you liked best. And if you enjoyed today's craft tutorial, please like and subscribe to my channel and share with other creative gems. Also, remember to hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time I have another DIY glam project on my channel.